The number 6 archetype of the enneagram on the spiritual path. Hello, this is Chris speaking. Wake up with another video about the enneagram on the spiritual path. This is not first tier psychological enneagram. This is second tier spiritual enneagram as used by Gurdjieff. It's not about personality development. It's about soul growth. Second tier, not first tier. Okay. This out of the way, the number 6 archetype disposition is, in my view, the most complex and the most simple of all. Simple in the way that you can just say the underlying topic, the underlying theme of the number 6 is fear and the search for security. And that all psychological personality first tier 6s are easily controlled by fear and security by politicians. So if this was a channel about psychology and personality development, this would be a very short video. That's it. Fear, security, that's it, bye. But this is not a channel about personality development. This is a spiritual channel about the spiritual path towards enlightenment and beyond. And these videos are not about others. They're about you. Are you a 6? This video is only helpful to you if you are an archetype number 6. And then what to do? Then what to do on the spiritual path? What are the strengths and weaknesses? What are the obstacles on the spiritual path for you if you archetype disposition number 6? 6s like to project their own inner world, their inner emotions, fears, and so on, onto the outside and find someone to blame for how they feel. They're very suspicious. But it also leads to them very, very good tacticians, very empathetic, and very good Menschenkenntnis, knowledge of human nature, to assess if someone is good or evil, is a threat or not a threat, friendly or not friendly. Theoretically, they're very good at this. They have very good instincts if something is a threat. There's a German word for it, Menschenkenntnis, means knowledge of human nature. And 6s can be people with very bad and with very good Menschenkenntnis. Very good and very bad instincts, very accurate or inaccurate instincts towards if someone else is a threat or not. Do you know the TV show with Tim Roth, Lie to Me? Very nice, half fictional, based on a true story of a behavioral psychologist. And in this series you have two types of psychologists. One that trained to be able to assess if someone's lying or not, and others who are natural talents. Both could be 6s. The whole idea of being able to know if someone is lying or not is something that is very natural to a 6 and not so natural to any other types. 5, 6s and 7s, they're all mind-based and fear-based. While the 5s are the most intellectual ones, the 6s can also be intellectual and try to solve things with thinking. The intellectual 6s can be confused with 5s, and the emotional 6s can be confused with 4s. But the 4s and 5s, they withdraw. If they are under stress, they withdraw into their own world. The 6s, they project. If your mind works well, this projection and fear and tactics and instincts, they lead to finding out what's actually going on. They can be very clever in finding out what is actually the case. Especially the counterphobic 6s, of whom I talk about later. But most of the time, most of the 6s go for the easy route. They just want a quick solution so that they can feel safe again. And that's what usually leads to complete misunderstanding of the situation. There are 3 types of 6s, 3 subtypes. who more or less correspond to the traditional ways to react to a threat. The traditional ways are flight, fight, freeze, or fawn. Freeze is not a reaction that will ensure your survival and your security. So, the first subtype is the flight type. He or she will get out of dodge if anything gets funky. The second type is the counterphobic type, will fight back. He's very rebellious and the most paranoid of all. He or she will not stop until they found out what is happening and where the threat is coming from. They're also the most intellectual ones. And the third subtype, the sexual type, is the fawning type. Yeah? They will try to ameliorate the situation and try to make friends with a threat. Calm the other person down, or is just outright submissive. Sixes cannot deal well with bullies, and they often have childhood traumas. Red flags for sixes are intense anxiety and panic attacks, inferiority complexes, depression, fears and phobias. There's this one guy in the TV show Scorpion, which is about a team of super intelligent people. And one of the guys, he has so many phobias. He's afraid of everything, but he's a genius. That's a 6. Sylvester is his name in the TV show. And of course, paranoia can be an extreme warning sign, borderline, dissociative disorders. Yeah, dissociation is also a very common tool for people who are very stressed. They just dissociate and the mind gets out. The body stays, the mind gets out. Sixes need to have a clear picture who is evil and who is good. They really need to know this. Otherwise, they're hypervigilant and afraid all the time. You can use your instincts for that, but the best is, of course, intuition. What you cannot use for this is your mind and your emotions. If sixes are stressed, they go towards the 3. The disintegration path is they try to make up for it with work and status and money. They try to buy their security. The healthy integration path of the 6 is towards the 9. Yeah, 9, 3 and 6, they move within this triangle. If they go towards the 9, it means that their instincts and later their intuition work well. They have the overview. Yeah, they have the overview of the 9 and the relaxedness of the 9, but the strategy of the 6. Also, they're less mistrustful and more open. Sixes have a big problem in trust, like the 4s. They have big trust issues. That basic trust that the world is a good place is often missing. And this is where the spiritual path comes in. Finally, I get to it. If your basic assumption is that the world is a bad place, a threatening place, and that there's no benevolent system or God behind it, then it's very hard to surrender. Very hard to surrender. Or impossible even. How can you surrender to an evil system? Also, you will have the worst time of all these 9 types in the coral spell dynamics phase. Because in coral you will be confronted with all your fears and traumas. Coral is the worst nightmare for 6s. But you have to go through coral to get to enlightenment. Then we have the 2 wings, the number 5 wing and the number 7 wing. 6s are called the loyalists, the guardians, the true believers, the doubter, the troubleshooter, the traditionalist, the stalwart. They have the fear that they cannot survive on their own, that they're in a hostile environment all the time. They cannot survive on their own. So they try to find security and support all the time. And try to find out what is good and what is evil, who is good and who is evil, and the best strategy to get out of this mess. The 5 wing is of course the most intellectual. It's very difficult to tell a 6 with a 5 wing apart from a 5 with a 6 wing. A 6 with a 5 wing, they're very good mathematicians, analysts, problem solvers, teachers. Sylvester again, the genius with the phobias. They're also called the defender. They like to fight for the weak, as a lawyer, for example, or human rights activist. And then there's the 7 sub-wing. The 7s are the ones who create enthusiasm and joy in others. So this type is called the buddy, the friend. The 6s are very good and loyal friends, and none more so than the buddy, the 6 with the 7 wing. They're very funny and engaging, and it's just nice to be around, to enjoy their company. What you have to learn as a 6 is firstly to see that there is no security in the end. There's nothing that really makes you feel safe or makes you safe. Life is a risk. And there's nothing to control for you, and there's no sense to find out, and no good and evil, and no fairness and justice to find out. And this is first horrible, but then it is also freeing, because if there's no meaning, then there's also nothing you can do wrong. So firstly, life is empty and meaningless. Don't try to find something that makes you feel secure. It's impossible. You could die every day. It's not up to you. It's up to fate. So live your life. Use your life. Carpe diem. Do something with it. Don't live as if you're going to live another 20, 30, 40 years. Use your time now. What would you do with your life if you only had 1 more week or 1 more month to live? Think about it and then do it now. Don't wait for it. The second thing you have to do is to start trusting the universe and surrender. This is very hard. So do the first thing first. In personality development, 6s have to become more distrustful, more distrusting towards the authorities. But in soul development, it's the other way around. There you have to start trusting the universe or the divine or whatever you want to call it. And lastly, you don't need the help and support of others as much as you think you do. Similar to the 2s, the 4s, the 6s have to learn that they can be independent, that they can function without protection. Also have a look, which are your stress reactions? Is it more flight or fight or fawn? Especially if it's fawning, stop doing that. It's just taking away from yourself. You don't have to placate assholes. 6s can easily have a mind merry-go-round, repeating recurrent thoughts, thinking, worrying about the same thing again and again, fretting. Paired with their delusion of victimization. They like to be victims, so they can blame others and don't have to take any responsibility. And responsibility is a horror for 6s. It's like Sartre said, the most difficult thing as a human being is responsibility and freedom. Many people actually don't want that. They don't want freedom, they don't want responsibility. They prefer to being told what to do and then complain about it. And most people are 6s. 6 is the most ubiquitous archetype of all. In general, but also on the spiritual path, you have lots of 6s, 5s, and 4s. Don't fret about the future too much. Neither the future nor the past. For you, it's really good to listen to Eckhart Tolle and try to be in the present. So now I can imagine you have been waiting for the examples. Here are the examples. Historical 6s. Swami Vivekananda, Swami Yukteswar Giri, Bernadette Roberts, Andrew Taylor Still, Sigmund Freud, Omar Khayyam, Gurdjieff, David Hume, Descartes, Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo is probably 6 and 9. Now don't underestimate the 6s. Once the 6s get beyond their fear and mistrust and passivity, they're geniuses, and also the spiritual path is open to them because they have such a clear view and they have such a good connection to their instincts that to find their intuition becomes easy, because the intuition has similarities to instinct. It's not the same. But if you can find your instinct, feel your instinct clearly, and can tell it apart from thoughts and emotions, then to find your intuition is also easy or easier. Daniel Quinn probably also was a 6. Franz Ricklin and Alfred Adler. Yeah? Quite a few psychologists are here also in the 6 archetype. Hans Jonas, the philosopher, who was very suspicious about the dangers of technological advance. Leibniz, the mathematician. So we already have 2 genius mathematicians, Leibniz and Descartes. Gauss probably as well, one of the most intelligent mathematicians of all time. Lots of Sufis too, lots of famous actors, 6s. So leave your comments below. Thank you to all my Patreons. Thank you for joining me as a Patreon. Thank you for liking and subscribing and hitting the bell button and sharing the videos with your friends. And see you soon.